By the end, when there was no hope of escape, people turned on each other, tearing at the ones they loved, blind to everything but the terror. Mothers, fathers, sons and daughters. It meant nothing. In their final moments, they were just animals, shivering and screaming, flailing at the dark, fighting for life. Thero howled with them, begging for mercy, as though the monsters attacking them might listen, as though they might care. Please. Then he tumbled to the floor and gasped in surprise. He looked around and saw that he was at home, and it was still night. His wife Valacia was in bed, sleeping quietly. There were no wings, no bestial horrors, no screams. None of it was real. He was so relieved that he laughed. A dream, that's all it was. But it had been so vivid. He could still feel the desperate hunger clamoring for his heart and bones. He stood there for a while, trying to clear his thoughts, trying to think of other things, but he could not rid himself of the sickening images. He dressed and headed outside, drinking in the cool night air and looking up at the stars. Just a dream. He could not remember ever being so affected by a nightmare, even as a child. Glimpses echoed round his thoughts. Fractured scenes centered on a huge figure. A four-armed colossus, godlike in size, taller than the trees, skittering and scything, a face too dreadful to look upon. Bone blades jutting from a rigid skull. It was repulsive. The flesh on one side was burned, leaving a charred sinew on the face. But it was more than its appearance that filled him with dread. It was something deeper, an understanding of what it signified. It was not merely bringing death. It was bringing the final death. It was the Harbinger. "Emperor, protect me," he whispered as he hurried away from his hab unit, following a narrow path through the rocks, hoping the night air would calm him. He entered a small wood, and the trees leant over him as he walked, forming a tunnel. When he emerged on the far side, he was surprised to see lights glittering further down the mountainside. Who would be awake now? He headed toward them and saw that, despite the late hour, hundreds, perhaps even thousands of people had gathered in the darkness. He recognized a few of them, but most were strangers. The sight of so many people huddled together in the middle of the night was bizarre and somehow dreadful. They were all looking out from the mountains, staring into the night. No one was speaking. They looked terrified, all of them, their faces pale and rigid, like skulls draped in the darkness. The knot in his stomach tightened. It made no sense, but somehow he knew what had scared them. He knew why they had gathered here at the edge of the forest. "The dream," he said quietly as he reached a young woman. She gave a short nod, trembling as she looked across the forest. "The Harbinger." The name felt strange in his mouth, heavy and cold. He immediately regretted using it. She refused to meet his eye. Thero remembered the sounds of his nightmare. The scraping of claws, the creak of chitin. Blood rushed in his veins. He imagined talons paring him, rooting through his abdomen. How could we share the same dream? "It is a portent," the woman whispered. "Of what?"
What is up, guys? It's the Sound Alchemist, and today I'm back to talk about Warhammer 40K. Hopefully you guys enjoy that short reading from an excerpt from the newest 10th edition lore that features none other than the Tyranids invading the Imperial systems. And speaking of Tyranids lately, these guys have been a bigger threat much more recently in the lore, to the point where we have Norn's emissaries. Tyranid bioform so powerful it takes a whole squad of Adeptus Custodes to bring one down, or about 10 dreadnoughts, which all of them died to do that impossible feat. So, if the hive mind is capable of creating a bioform so powerful, how in the hell is the Imperium going to be able to survive? Because honestly, if you put 1 or 2 Norn Queens against a whole Space Marine chapter, that's going to cause some serious losses. So, it's come to the point where I think that maybe even if the Tyranids can muster maybe 4, 5, 6 of these Norn's emissaries and send them at Guilliman, I don't know if Guilliman can come out unscathed. Like, these guys are a threat, so how is the Imperium going to deal with this? Because none other than Lord Solar Leontis, he knows the threat because he was targeted by the Norn's emissaries. So everybody now knows how much of a threat the Tyranids are, and they now know exactly how powerful an emissary of Norn is. So what does this lead us to believe? Well, currently GW is running a campaign for the fate of Aughrim, a world that is being besieged by a Tyranid invasion, and depending on what happens in your Warhammer 40K games that you play at a GW store, the win-loss ratio will be recorded, and that's going to affect the storylines considering 10th edition moving forward. Now, they did something like this recently with Chaos Space Marines and the Imperium, with Harkin, the World Claimer, and Abaddon, and I don't really think that really changed anything. It was just like a fun thing. So I don't think this is going to be anything crazy as well with the whole lore of 40K. I mean, yeah, say the Tyranids do win, the world is gone, but what does that really do? Nothing. Like, planets are besieged, invaded, destroyed, sucked up into the warp, blown up. Like, planets come and go almost every day in the Warhammer universe, and like nobody really bats an eye. So I don't know why they're making so much fuss about the fate of this planet. Even if it is a very important planet for the Imperium, they'll find a way to recover losses, or they'll just say, yeah, we lost this planet, they gotta be stronger next time. But like, I don't see any lasting effects for this. Obviously, if I'm wrong, please let me know in the comments. And if you guys have been playing games at your local GW store, how are these games going for the Tyranids versus the Imperium? Because for the most part, it's been almost 50-50. I believe the last time we got an update, the Imperium was winning with 51%. So yeah, the Tyranids are right there at 49. So hopefully this means if the Tyranids do win, we get to see none other than the reveal of the newest Tyranid playable model, the Norn's Emissary. And man, I can't wait to see what that looks like, because the only thing we got at all is like a fuzzy picture of a Custode fighting one, but it's like really bad quality. So hopefully we get to see the actual thing, we get to see a new sculpt for it. I'm excited. And if the Tyranids don't win, then we'll probably see the Norn's Emissary once the Codex drops for the Tyranids, and hopefully there'll be rules to play in our 10th edition games for that awesome bioform. But that's all I got for today, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And as always, it's been the Sound Alchemist, part of One Mind Syndicate, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.
Oh, I used to put my